Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Black Coffee and Conversation. I'm CT Minima along with
Rico Moore and my daughter, Lauren Ashton Moore.
Also known as the girl with no name. So
Game of Thrones.
yeah. So what we talk about today, Rico? What you got on your mind?
Hey, what about the opioid board that they've they decided to put in place for the state of West Virginia to address the opioid crisis throughout our state, since we have the highest number of overdoses in the United States.
All right, I don't know nothing about the boards. So what are they supposed to be discussing?
I guess they're going to discuss how to address the opioid epidemic, throughout our state.
Okay.
And I noticed that a lot of people they have on board, doctors, they have a police officer, I believe some people that are involved in the creating of the legislation.
Okay.
I can't remember right off the top of my head, but what I did notice was avoiding anybody from, the black community.
Okay.
Because my thing is just like with the crack epidemic. They fail to go to and take a look at the effect that it has on us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing a lot more black people in court going to jail for the distribution of opioids. But my issue is a lot of them use as well as distribute, and I'm wondering how they end up in our hands and how we end up being seen a lot of times as the distributors of these pills or heroin or any other drugs are in the opioid family.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they show you when you see TV or in the courtroom. However, whenever you see a victim of the opioid epidemic,
mm-hmm.
They always show somebody who's white.
Yeah.
But there's two sides to that story. When you have somebody who's out here who's struggling and they're put in positions where can't find jobs, don't have anything to eat, they got families to raise, you may dibble and dabble in that field, and it's not just black people, which is what, if you look at TV and the newspaper, it will lead you to believe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's an aspect of it that needs to be addressed on this board as well. What are the effects on all the communities, in particular, in this case, in our community, as far as what happens to the kids when these people go to jail. They didn't address that when it happened with the crack epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
And when they had the crack epidemic, they looked at it from the standpoint, Mark, get out of our frame. Get out of our frame. They looked at it from a standpoint. It was just strictly a criminal problem. But now all of a sudden they're looking at it from a standpoint of it's not just a criminal problem, it's a health issue. And when you speak of crack, most people think that it was more or less a black problem, an inner city problem.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is it wasn't. The majority, at least here in Charleston, the majority of the customers that came around the projects and the places where I grew up, a lot of the customers were there was just as many who were white as well as black, but
yeah.
The way that it's painted and most people perceive it as a black problem, and they saw it that way and they treated it as strictly a problem with criminal activity instead of seeing it as for what it was, which was a health problem as well as, in this case, a criminal problem as well. Because when you start digging into that part of our history, you can go as far back as the Kerry hearings with the legislature, in which you start figuring out that, well, hell, the cocaine was being imported by our government and distributed throughout our community.
Yeah, you remember that journalist? I think he's out of
Gene Webb.
No, David Webb.
David Webb.
He wrote that book, Dark Alliance. Or he wrote articles.
Yeah, in the Mercury, San Jose Mercury.
Yeah, and then he got blackballed, and he allegedly committed suicide with two shots to the head.
Yeah, 245s.
Yeah, 2 shots to the head. He committed suicide, but and he exposed all that back then. And,
Freeway Ricky Ross.
Freeway Rick Ross.
Right.
And the thing is that the war on drugs, was always about, locking up black folks. And you know, if you look at the numbers, you know, you're a lawyer, so you know this. When you look at incarceration rates, you look at it at a rate per 100,000. You know, the numbers for a white woman incarcerated is about 100 to 100,000. Black women is about 150 to 100,000. White men is about 300 to 100,000. Black men is almost 9,000 per 100,000.
Yeah.
I mean, this is on the, this is damn near genocide, and when you really think about it.
And when you're in West Virginia, you look at the numbers. We make up what, let's say 3 to 4% of the entire population of the state of West Virginia.
Yeah.
But we're doing, I want to say, I could be wrong here, but I know it's very high. It's like 38 to 42% of those incarcerated. I mean, that's almost impossible.
I mean,
it's like the odds of that.
Well,
if it's random and it's done fair across the board, that would be almost like the odds of that are almost like winning a damn lottery.
But it's not impossible because it's intentional.
Well, I mean, that's what it would lead you to believe.
Let me give you
all right, you're gonna sit down. This is why I do what I do.
Yeah. You do it for the youth. But man, you know, they a little rambunctious at times. But yeah, let me give you an example. You know, back last February, or this past February, almost a year now, you know, we had some people break into our building in downtown Charleston, right? And caught them downstairs in the basement, literally sleeping on needles, literally. One guy got put out on PR bond. Mind you, they've been in and out of the system. These are 2 white individuals, 1 male, 1 female. The girl had like a $5,000 bond. She couldn't even come up with 10% to get out. So she was in there. They put the dude out on PR bond. He skipped the court date. They ended up finding her. Long story short, it's like, well, you know, we're just going. They call, you know, my dad, you know, but yeah, we're just going to send him to rehab. And we're like, well, okay, that's for the drug addiction, okay, but what about the crime that committed? I mean, they destroyed property. They didn't really have no answer. But black people, we damn near jaywalk. They ready to send you to jail for 30 days.
Well, see, I don't have a problem with their answer to giving these people, you know, put them in some type of rehab.
For the drugs, for the addiction, not for the crime.
Well, the addiction is what caused the crime, and yeah, they need to pay some type of restitution, in my opinion, some way, shape, or form. But my real issue is, you know, I'll give you an example. You got people get arrested here in West Virginia, and if they say that they're from Detroit, they want to give them a huge bond and say that the people from Detroit are coming here and you know, they're selling all the drugs. But that's not so. If you take them away, the drugs still show up.
I mean, how did before they got here? Because that's just a new, you know, phenomenon here within the last decade. You know, quote unquote, the Detroit influence, as they claim. Before that, where are they coming from?
But the drugs, regardless.
That's what I'm saying.
The drugs, regardless, get here.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
If you look, the small town in southern West Virginia, was Kermit, West Virginia. I mean, I think they have like 300-400 people.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think they feel
almost
like
a million,
like 1 million prescriptions, or something astronomical. Yeah. And this was coming from a doctor of 1 pharmacy. Yeah. So, you know, and then these pharmacists and so on and so forth, they get convicted. Some of them, not a lot. Some of them, but they get very small sentences. Whereas these little street people, these little quote unquote, you know, drug dealers or whatever you want to call them. I call them survivalists because that's what they are, urban survivors. They're trying to survive, a lot of them. They're demonized as the cause of our opioid problem, and they're not. You know, of course, you know, they're like businessmen who, some of them come in and say, oh, it's an opportunity, and this, you know, it happens. And I don't think that they should be treated any different than anybody else. Some of them come in, they do the drugs as well. Yeah. So, why is it all of a sudden, you know, they try to make it seem like if they stop those people from coming, then the problem goes away? Hell no. What about the pharmaceutical companies?
Well, I mean, one, you get some, you know, you got the complexion for the protection in certain regards, but also the thing is, we got this idea, you know, throughout society that, you know, the criminals are always the poorest of the poor. But I mean,
more people been robbed with a pen than with a gun.
Well, that's what I was about to say. The biggest criminals, you know, in the world wear suits every day to work. But those are also the ones who are in charge to enforce the enforcement of the quote unquote crimes. So, what's the difference of, you know, selling a bag of heroin or I don't know how they weigh it, I don't know, or a crack or whatever, or you selling a Xanax, you know, you're a pharmacist, you know, or a doctor prescribing Xanax to people, or, you know, you said these opioid drugs. I don't really know the names of them. I don't really dabble in that. But like you said, that one city where they just prescribing 4 million. But those guys get a slap on the wrist.
I'm sorry, CT. This is part of, you know, being a daddy, but I'm listening.
You know, but you sell a couple grams of, you know, of some type of narcotic, they ready to throw the book at you.
Right. But because you're a pharmacist and you just got caught up in this situation, you know, it's like, oh, we're gonna give him a break, and that. And I'm not saying that a lot of them don't deserve a break, but I'm saying that break should come across the board. You know what I mean? It should come across the board.
It's not going to come across the board.
But it doesn't. It makes, you know, it should be applied across the board, but it doesn't.
I mean, why? What incentive do they have to it, though? I mean, as we do know, I mean, you know, the prison industrial complex, that's to make money. You know, there's money in locking up people.
You know, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. See?
Hey.
This is my boss. This is my boss. But
that's number one priority.
Okay. But you're right. I mean, you know, it keeps the wheels turning, but it keeps the wheels turning in terms of it crushes certain people and not other people. And that, and, you know, that's my biggest issue.
Did you hear? I think I showed you this earlier this week where Denzel Washington said, you know, we shouldn't be blaming the black community. We shouldn't be blaming the criminal justice system for locking us up. It starts at the home. Well, he's dealing with the effect. He's not talking about the cause.
Well, I mean, I read it a little different. When I read it, my take on it was he was saying, we know it's there. We shouldn't make it as easy for them as we do.
No, but
I mean, but I'm just saying it's the way I took it. I looked at it both ways, and I thought he was also trying to say that, okay, we know what's out there. We know how they treat us. Don't make it easy for them.
But I mean, all right, you can say. I mean, that's easier. All right, you can say that, but look at you know, in the aftermath of the murder of Michael Brown, it was discovered that, you know, they was handing out, you know, down there in Missouri, they, you know, disproportionately, you know, giving black people all these tickets, you know, driving, you know, tickets.
I'm not saying I agree with it at all.
You know, it basically.
All right.
It was basically, you know.
See what I mean? It starts at home.
Yeah, shoot, man.
Stop.
So they was giving out the disproportionate amount of violations, you know, traffic violations, basically taxing them, and if you know, put warrants out on these individuals, and they standing be in court all day long. You know, and so. That makes sense if they weren't, you know, actively seeking you out to basically fund your own enslavement per se.
Right, but
I mean, so I don't agree with Denzel at all, because
I'm not saying I agree with him. I just said there was two ways of looking at it, and you're right. He's going after the symptom and not after the damn cause. And once again, you know what I'm saying. Did you read that new article, Jay-Z's article in the Times?
No, I'm not a big fan of Jay-Z right now.
Oh, I'm a huge fan.
I like him, but after he said something at a concert, he said America is more sexist than racist. So I don't know what he's talking about, but
I don't know. But I'm just telling you, read that new article that's in the Times, and
what's he talking about?
And he was talking about, you know, they just started talking about, you know, the story of OJ, his song, and he said, you know, basically, I'm paraphrasing here. He was saying that, okay, you paid attention to that song. What I'm saying is, you know, even with the money and all that different stuff, not only are you still black, you have a duty to to try to uplift your community, not just yourself. And you know, once you try to transcend that and say, okay, I got some money, so I've transcended all that, then you buy yourself. And when you buy yourself, you basically gonna get your ass kicked and abused. So as you go up, your goal, your duty is to try to bring not just you, but your community up. And the way you do that is not forgetting where you come from and sticking together.
Yeah, but
I mean, read that article, you'll like it.
But I think oftentimes, you know, I think we said this before, you cannot rely on the same system for your daily bread that you claim to oppress you. And I think that lies the problem with a lot of people, you know, who come up on some money. They might be, you know, willing to, or they would like to, you know, help out or do what they can. But prime example, Kaepernick, you know, basically standing up, you know, or kneeling per se.
That's what I'm saying. He's saying, look, you got to stick together. Don't leave his brother out there by himself, who's saying, you know, what is right. Don't do it.
But a lot of them did, though.
Yeah, a lot of them did. He's not saying they didn't, but he's saying, look, if you show up with 40 million of us, we changed the whole system.
But the thing is, though, how you going to do that? You know, I think it's 40. If we got 40 million, then you got about, I say, at least 30 million different viewpoints. You know, you may got, you know, a quarter of people who might be on board. I wouldn't even say a quarter.
Just read the article. You may got, and I think you'll agree with the point, because it's our point. It's the point we make all the time. Mm-hmm. Like right now, I know you and I are agreeing that as much as we love her, we wish she would sit still and shut up. We can agree on that point. But gotta deal with her, because she's me. Thank you.
But I would say, did you see the, you know, there's a lot of controversy here about, you know, the NFL is saying they're going to, you know, contribute $100 million over 7 years, you know, to, you know, for the causes for the quote-unquote Players Coalition. Have you heard of that?
No.
And then the Malcolm Jenkins, you know, said he's not going to protest no more, you know, because, you know, NFL is going to step up. But the thing is, the whole initial point of the protest was not about, you know, giving money. Actually, it's not even the NFL's.
Listen, crumbs don't change anything.
The thing is, though, they talking about, you know, the thing was, how do we stop black people from getting smoked in the street by Barney Fife? Here's how you stop it. Money ain't gonna stop it. None of this sensitivity training is gonna stop it. You know how you stop it? Lock some of these quote-unquote police officers up. It ain't end overnight. You start throwing a book at, you know, an officer or kill somebody unjustly.
Yeah, did you see that shit? The girl watched Philando Castro.
Philando Castile out of Minnesota. She got a $100,000 settlement. Some officials said, like, yeah, she gonna spend that money on crack.
You know, Erin Andrews, who was the ESPN announcer, she got like 55 million because they saw her. Yeah, because they saw her naked.
Who'd she get that money from? The hotel?
Man, I don't care who she got it from. That just sends a message of killing this black person is not worth as much as seeing a white lady naked. That's the message that it says. Whether they mean to send it or not, it's just the fact that that's what it tells you.
First of all,
a live naked white lady is worth more than a dead black dude getting killed in front of his girlfriend and her child.
Here's the question.
That's the message that it says.
Here's the question. Should we even accept?
And the officer was found not guilty.
I understand. Well, should they even? Oh yeah, that's all right. They did go to court.
Go sit with Uncle Martin.
All right, back to our regularly scheduled program. But let me ask you a question. Should we accept these settlements when our relatives get killed? Let me ask you this.
Well,
hold on. Scenario. You got $4, right?
Yeah.
Let's say Barney Fife rolls up on the, you know, the one. How many of them drive right now? One drive. So she's out somewhere. She's driving. Barney Fife pulls her over, shoots her dead in the head, kills her. How much money is that worth to you?
No money.
So should we accept settlements? Because my thing is,
I think we should accept settlements, but we should also accept them going to jail. There's two aspects of it. There's the civil and the criminal part of it. Yeah.
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 And she trying to eat that crime. That's all that.
She just, man, she just wants something to do.
But
Go
the
ahead.
thing is,
Get you one. Get a piece.
but let's say, you know, they're not convicted, so they just give you the $6 million or $3 million or something like that, $900,000, and all right, go home and sit down and shut up.
It's not gonna happen for me.
And here's the thing, though. In the system of white supremacy, they only respect two things: loss of life and loss of finance. But here's the issue: when it comes to killing black folk, that $1 million, man, that's just a drop in the bucket to them.
Cost of doing business.
Cost of doing business. But here's you know what the funny thing part about that is? They're not taking that $1 million from that officer that killed you. They're taking it from the population. That's taxpayer money.
Well, it comes from the insurance company. Insurance company.
Insurance company.
Right.
Oh, is that where it's coming from?
Yeah.
Think about that. And the, you know, quote unquote, all these good people out here, you know, they're never the ones on the jury. You know? How is it? Think about it, you know?
Think about it. I deal with it.
I know you do, but
I deal with it all the time. And I'm in another part of the state right now in which they refuse to give me discovery that's due.
yeah.
So I'm in court on Tuesday to ask the judge to make them give me what they're supposed to give me.
Mm-hmm.
They give me videos. They say they got my guy selling drugs. But he's not even on the video. So now we're going to show up. We'll probably end up having a trial. They're going to put somebody on the stand who said that they bought drugs from this guy. They have no video, no audio, no marked money. It happened in October. They don't arrest this guy until May. Now I've got to worry about what type of jury I get, whether or not they believe this woman or this guy who says X, Y, and Z happened. And I'm in the southern part of the state with a black kid. She's a drug addict, but what she says is right, whether or not they had it on audio, video, or not. So you gotta contend with
hold on. I'm ignorant, you know. And here's the problem, you know, a lot of us need to be more well versed in the law. So you mean to tell me somebody could say they bought drugs from you, and that they could, you know, indict you on that just because somebody said they, you know, bought drugs.
There's a saying about grand jury. It says basically you can indict a ham sandwich. When somebody goes to the grand jury, right? It's the prosecutor, the grand jury, and you know whatever witness they call.
I'm glad.
Nobody else gets to ask. You know, the defense does not get to show up. The accused doesn't show up. You don't get to ask any questions.
And I'm glad you brought that up because it goes back to what we said earlier with Eric Garner. That's the statement they was making. You know, if that prosecutor down there in Missouri, I think his name was Robert McCullough, if I'm not mistaken, wanted to indict
Garner was in New York.
No, Mike Brown. Excuse me, Mike Brown. Yeah,
First.
The prosecutor's name was Robert McCullough. I think that was his name. If he wanted to indict that officer, Darren Wilson, he could have indicted him.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Actually, he was in there as the defense attorney for the officer. So, so I know it's nothing new. So, oftentimes, you know, your main, I guess, you know, point of view on a lot of things is we need to get into these institutions, you know, to be represented, to have some type of influence.
Well,
but when you're dealing with individuals like that, you know.
Right. Like here locally, our prosecutor is elected. It's not appointed. Some places I believe are even appointed, but here he's elected. So we need to make sure that, you know, our votes are out there, that, you know, our voice is heard through our votes. But have you ever noticed the majority, 95% of the judges are former prosecutors? Think about it. They're former prosecutors. So what attitude are they going to have? Now, I'm not saying all of them are bent, you know, for the prosecution, but most of them are former prosecutors.
But then here's the question. You know, in this video, we're mostly talking about the justice system. At what point in time do we just say, you know, are we really, I don't call it just, I call it the injustice system, but
About accurate.
why do we ever, at what are we willing to give up to change this system? Because this is just my point of view. To me, it's just going to be, you know, status quo is going to stay in place until there's some traumatic, you know, change.
Right.
And I don't think that's just going to be a change at the ballot. There's going to be many facets that have to work together.
So what you're saying is you go into Malcolm's theory of the ballot or the bullet?
What I'm saying is,
I'm just asking.
in order to get things changed, there's going to have to be a segment of the population going to have to be willing to put themselves in harm's way. And that is not necessarily physical harm.
Right.
That could be, one is going to be physical harm, yes, but there's also going to be social harm, financial harm, you know, and other.
You always have to give up something to get something. But you know what? One of the problems with it, and I think is one of the reasons we don't see as many younger people stepping forward in that way is a lot of them do not know their history in terms of how they just think they were born with the right to vote, which they were born with the right to vote, but they think that it was always there. It was not always there. They don't know anything about the march. They, oh yeah, they marched. No, did you tell them? No, when they marched, they were also attacked by dogs, water hoses. They were beaten. They were thrown in jail. And these people were giving up their jobs. They lost their jobs. But what they did was a lot of them would band together. If I got you know three strips of bacon, I made sure I may have eaten one. You got one, and he got one. You know.
But I don't. I
They,
think
they,
that
they, they lost that sense of community.
Well, well, one, we don't have a community. You know, we just got pockets of the country where, you know, those who look like us live. Because you can't have a community if just allow you to live there. You don't police your own community. You don't provide the jobs. And you're just kind of there.
Right.
So
it's okay. Have a seat. Have a seat.
No problem. But I would say, you know, and you make a good point. A lot, you know, and I think it's up to us, and we said in previous episodes, for us to, you know, teach the youth in the history of the past. Because I'm not going to rely on, you know, public school systems to do that. Because they're just going to tell you what they need to know. And even now,
no, they don't tell them what they need to know. They tell them what they want them to know.
That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
They're going to tell you what they think, you know, is going to benefit the system as is. And so, if we, you know, again, I don't think, you know, a majority of us are going to get on board. But also, you said, you know, like we said, what are you willing to sacrifice? Here's the problem. You know, in a capitalist society, you know, if you don't pay your bill, you're out on the street. And so, and now with this new tax, you know, reform that, you know, they're trying to push through. I don't know if they voted on it or not last night. I think they did, but stuff is going to get a whole lot worse. And do we have the reserve capital to say we can sacrifice?
Look, bro, we've always survived one way or another. So what they're going to have to do is, whatever comes down the pipe, they still got to get out there and get this done, or it just gets worse. Regardless of what people think about this, that, or the third, they just got to get out there and say, okay, I got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to find a way.
Yeah. And like we said before,
not an excuse, find a way.
Yeah. And not everybody has to be get on board, but also just enough of us has to get on board. But also, you can't do everything.
No.
Find one way that you can contribute and go all in on that. Could be media, like we're doing right now. Could be a law, you're a lawyer. Could be in health. We're gonna need some doctors, we're gonna need some nurses.
Need art.
Could be in food, art, yeah. Could be in food. We need to get people into these agricultural programs, you know, and other, you know, areas of activity. And so
it can definitely be in the form of teaching.
well, education, yeah.
Education is huge. You know, not indoctrination, but education. You know, we've got to start to build a foundation where these people understand, you know, where they come from, what it took for you to get to where you are, to really appreciate the things that you have, so that you don't just blindly say, okay, walk through life and let them take it like they're doing now, they're taking everything backwards. They're taking things back to pre-1964, pre-civil rights.
Oh yeah, I mean, what do you think Make America Great Again meant? They want to go back to the 50s.
40s.
You know, right when, you know, a lot after, like you said, the 40s, right back when after the World War II, they want to go back to those days.
Tell you what, anybody that watches this, do yourself a favor and Google the Devil's Punch Bowl, Mississippi. I think it's Natchez, Mississippi, but the Devil's Punch Bowl in Mississippi. I'm not gonna tell them what it's about. Google it and find out.
All right. Well, shoot, man, I guess we can wrap up this conversation for today. What's your final thought?
Final thought is, you know, back to the opioid epidemic. The opioid epidemic, take a look at the difference between that and the crack epidemic. And then you tell me, if anybody that wants to send us any emails or any comments on Facebook, you tell me what you see as the major difference in the way that they're treating it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess my final thought would be, you know, find an area of people activity that you can contribute and go all in if you want to. If you don't, if you just gonna half-step it, don't waste your time. Because right now, you know, we're living probably one of the most dangerous times in recent history. And we don't got time to be bullcrapping around. If you want to contribute, contribute. If not, get out the way.